My wife cheated on me. Instead of divorcing her immediately, I took advantage of the system and managed to get her to pay child support. Grab a cup of coffee or tea, because this is a long story. I apologize, but I hope it's worth reading. My revenge began with the discovery of my wife's infidelity. Let's call her Carrie. After 14 years of marriage and 3 kids, I saw a message pop up on her work phone for just a few seconds that would change my life forever. It was a sexually explicit message that had no reason to be on anyone's work phone. It was on the lock screen, and the sender's name was visible. Let's call him Perry. I married Carrie when I was 25 and she was 22. At that time, I was teaching high school, and she was a registered nurse. After we had our first child, Carrie became a stay-at-home mom. Money was tight, so I took on an administrative role in my department and coached 2 sports to receive stipends. We made it work. After some annual raises, I stopped coaching and took advantage of a program to get an administrative credential. Once I moved into administration, our youngest child was ready for preschool, and Carrie decided she wanted to go back to work. Nursing jobs are always available, but they're not always the best positions. Carrie practically had to start over working alongside much younger nurses who could pull consecutive double shifts. This took a toll on Carrie. When she asked her supervisor about other positions, she was told that without a Bachelor of Science in nursing, she wasn't going to advance. At that time, Carrie only had an associate degree in nursing. I told her that with preschool, the after-school program, and my retired mother always willing to pick up the kids from school and watch them, I would support her in getting her Bachelor of Science in nursing. It took her 3 years, but she finally got her BSN and was promoted to a better position at the hospital. Things went well for a while. We had enough money, so we finally moved to our own house, bought new cars, etc. I had moved from school administration to district administration, so I had more time to spend with Carrie and the kids. She was working on a more predictable schedule, and although she often had long working hours, this change finally allowed us to take vacations to all the places we had put on a list during our honeymoon. She kept that list in our wedding album. Years later, I noticed she was carrying 2 phones with her. When I asked about it, she said it was a phone provided by the hospital. I didn't question her explanation because my district had also given me the option of a phone or a phone stipend, an option I took. Months passed, and I thought we were a happy and perfect family. I charged my phone in our living room while she charged her phones in our guest bedroom, which also functioned as a computer room to keep an eye on the kids while they surfed the web. I was updating the software on the computer when I saw a light around her work phone. She always had the habit of placing her phone face down while charging it. Out of curiosity, I reached for the phone and flipped it over. A message appeared on the lock screen asking her when she would like oral sex again, but in much more graphic language. I also saw that Perry had sent it. The world stopped around me. I froze. My first thoughts were, oh, what the hell was that? It's her work phone. That kind of message gets people fired. Then I realized Carrie was having an affair. It's amazing how the brain works. Suddenly, I started remembering many things that Carrie had done that seemed strange, but I had dismissed or immediately accepted her explanations. She always left the room to answer a call or return a message, claiming it would violate privacy laws if I overheard her talking about a patient. I accepted this because education has similar privacy laws concerning students. Sometimes she came home with a faint smell of cologne on her clothes, claiming it was from helping move male patients. Again, I accepted this without question, though it always seemed odd that it was always the same cologne scent. Once the proverbial barn door was opened, I began to see many things I had previously overlooked. Our love life in the bedroom had cooled significantly, which wasn't helped by her having to leave home at odd hours to cover for other nurses calling in sick. I also remembered where I had seen the name Perry before, and a call to the hospital confirmed he was a doctor there. For the next week or so, I walked around in a daze, trying to piece everything together. One of our kids had left a book in Carrie's car, so it was an excuse to visit the hospital. Carrie had told me that personal visits weren't well received. My son went up to get Carrie's car key. I had forgotten my key at home. I talked to a nurse in the lobby and joked about how work phones seem like a blessing, but all they do is keep you on guard 24/7. This led to her eventually telling me that the hospital was too stingy to give phones to nurses, so only high executives got them, which didn't include Carrie. With almost everything confirmed, I took a day off the next day to speak with a divorce lawyer. The news he gave me was terrible. We lived in a community property state with no-fault divorce. I made more money than Carrie, she had been the primary caregiver of the kids, and we had been married for over 10 years. Basically, if I filed for divorce, I would be lost. I'd lose the house, have to pay alimony, she'd get a large chunk of my retirement, and I'd have to pay child support for the next decade unless I was lucky enough to get shared custody. The worst part, he told me, was that it didn't matter that she had cheated. It didn't matter. I was devastated. There was only one person I could trust with this kind of information. She was a coworker who had also made the leap to administration but was stuck at a school. Let's call her Anne. And had married at 19, but her marriage ended when her husband got another woman pregnant. Since then, she had focused on her career, and we found we were kindred spirits in many ways regarding education. I spoke to Anne. She told me something that changed my entire mindset: if you don't like the hand you were dealt, change the deck. I realized I had two problems: I made more money than Carrie, and she had more time than me to be the primary caregiver for the kids. The second problem was relatively easy to solve. In every district office, there are jobs that are fast tracks to higher positions, and there are jobs that administrators suffer, like kitchen or cleaning duties in the Army. One of these no-future regulatory positions was open again. Ambitious administrators left after a couple of years when a better position opened. I sat with our district superintendent and asked to be transferred to that position. At first, he was surprised, but I told him it was my turn to sacrifice for the team and that it would fill a gap in my administrative experience. He agreed. It was really just number crunching with no interaction with staff or students, so I could set my schedule, even take a laptop home and work there. With my new free time, I started taking the kids to school, picking them up from school, not dropping them off at after-school activities, or asking my mom to watch them and take them home. I helped them with their homework, cooked dinner, etc. Though the ultimate goal was to become their primary caregiver, I can't explain how much I genuinely enjoyed taking a more active role in their daily lives. My salary hadn't decreased, so I needed to find a way for Carrie to earn much more money than she did in her current nursing position. I remembered that Carrie was upset after getting her BSN when a supervisor told her that in the future, bachelor's degrees wouldn't be worth anything and that everyone would need at least a master's. Carrie had worked hard to get her BSN, and her supervisor's comment belittled all her effort. I convinced her to start a Master of Science in Nursing program. I told her that with my much more flexible work schedule, I would continue to take care of the kids. At first, she was reluctant, but then I told her she could have all the evenings free to study or go to classes, whatever she wanted. I saw her eyes light up immediately, probably thinking she could spend more time with Perry. To ensure she really completed her MSN courses, I paid her tuition and fees directly to her university. It was going to take her between 2 to 3 years to finish. Those years were tough sometimes. I could tell whenever she rushed out or came back from seeing Perry, there was an excitement or sense of satisfaction in her eyes that simply wasn't there when she was doing her coursework. I had to smile or pretend not to notice. My temper grew short sometimes, and I found myself in arguments over trivial matters. A couple of times, I nearly blew the whole charade, having to bite my tongue and apologize instead of shouting the insults she deserved. And remained my confidant throughout all this. I recommended her for my former fast-track position, and she joined me at the district office. And was qualified, hardworking, ambitious, and only needed a chance to impress the higher-ups. I even received some commendations for recommending her after she impressed everyone. And I began our own romance. It wasn't a passionate and fiery romance, but two friends giving each other what they needed. Without Anne, I wouldn't have been able to maintain the facade of being the carefree husband. But when Carrie came home smiling after spending time with Perry, I could bear it, smiling back because I had my own lover. After 3.5 years, Carrie completed her MSN and was promoted at her hospital. Her salary increased significantly, and it was now higher than mine. When the kids and I threw her a congratulatory dinner, I joked about her being the breadwinner, and she laughed, joking back that I should be a stay-at-home dad now. A month later, I went back to the lawyer who didn't remember me at first and told him the financial situation had drastically changed. With these new facts, he drafted the petition and filed it. When the kids were with my mom, I had the papers served to Carrie. The deputy knocked on our front door, and I let him in. Pointing to my wife, he asked her name and then handed her a copy of the divorce petition. With the deputy standing there, I told Carrie that I knew all about her affair with Perry but didn't tell her how long I had known. I told her to be happy with her doctor lover. She screamed, tried to lie, and then made the mistake of running toward me. The deputy stopped her and warned her that women also go to jail for domestic violence. He suggested she pack a bag to stay somewhere else. Carrie left after I promised not to tell the kids about her affair. I didn't tell the kids, but I told my mom, who told my sister, who told her kids, who told their cousins. It took a few days, but eventually, the kids found out that Dad was divorcing Mom because she had a boyfriend. In the end, the court granted the divorce, giving me primary custody of our kids because I was already their primary caregiver. I kept the house with the promise to refinance to buy out Carrie's half. She was ordered to pay child support, and I used that fact to negotiate her waiver of any rights to my retirement if I bought her out. I was able to refinance my home. It was the era when banks were throwing money at everyone to buy or refinance a mortgage, and with a little money borrowed from my parents, I bought out Carrie's share of the community property house and my retirement. The day she signed all the papers with my lawyer, finally ending any financial obligation to her, was the happiest day of my life. I felt I could finally breathe. I celebrated with Anne, who had been my support through it all. I'm not ashamed to say that over the years, I cried many times in her arms. And I eventually got married. She was promoted to a higher position, and I was convinced to retake my previous position in the district. When my youngest child entered high school, Carrie and I got along well after the divorce. We took the kids to family therapy and worked on co-parenting during the first few months. She took a beating from the kids over why she needed a boyfriend when Dad was always there. Between the kids and the therapist criticizing her, I didn't have to say anything at all. Carrie lost a lot of time with the kids due to her now legitimately busy work schedule, and I felt bad that my kids were missing out on time with their mother. So, I encouraged them to talk to her on the phone instead. When Carrie found out I had proposed to Anne, she congratulated me. I told her it was okay for her to marry Perry too. She became sad and told me Perry had started seeing another woman, a younger nurse at the hospital, because with her new position, she didn't have time for him, and when they did get together, it wasn't fun anymore. My ex-wife, the woman who cheated on me and destroyed our marriage, was seeking sympathy from me. I had none to give. What I had were years of anger and frustration, years of knowing another man was sleeping with my wife. I lost weight from not being able to eat, suffered from high blood pressure, and had to rely on my doctor to figure out why. It wasn't job stress. I had to listen to my dentist complain about how I was grinding my teeth and tell me I would need dental implants if it continued. There were times I had to be intimate with Carrie to maintain the deception, fortunately infrequently, only to lie and say I wanted to use condoms to remind us of how we used to have sex when dating or because I might have a bladder infection, then go get tested for STDs anyway and wait for the results before seeing Anne again. But in the end, it was all worth it. Sure, Carrie got a big payout when I bought her out of the house and my retirement, which she was giving back to me through child support, but she lost everything else. Her kids only saw her every other weekend and spent a couple of holidays with her. Perry left her, and he wasn't much of a catch anyway, having been divorced twice, with 5 kids, and paying child and spousal support. I kept my kids, my house, my income, and my retirement. I got Anne. I'm genuinely happy. All this in a community property state with no-fault divorce. If that's not professional revenge, I don't know what is.